This is America's national park. These are the places we visit to reflect, to learn about our history. But some have secrets buried deep within their borders. From missing persons to murders, dark events have transpired in these parks. That's why today we're exploring the hidden histories of our national parks. And now let's continue with the story. In the quiet town of Circleville, Ohio, life was simple, peaceful, until 1976, when anonymous letters began to arrive in the mailboxes of unsuspecting locals. The handwriting was blocky and harsh, the language aggressive, but most disturbing of all, the writers seemed to know everything about them. Private affairs, secret relationships, even daily routines. The letters accused people of terrible things, affairs, theft, lies, and they always ended with a warning: stop what you're doing, or everyone will know. One of the first targets was Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver. She had never had a crossword with anyone in town. The letter accused her of having an affair with the school superintendent, Frank Hall. Frank Hall, who sleeps with the married Mary Gillespie, better watch out or this will be exposed. Mary denied it, but more letters followed. So did accusations from other residents. People were talking. Whispers turned to rumors, rumors to accusations. The whole town was buzzing. And then the letters started targeting Mary's family. Her husband, Ron, began receiving them too. One day, the letters escalated. Ron walked into the police station, white as a sheet, a letter clutched in his hand. The officer recognized the familiar handwriting and dismissed Ron's concerns. You just need to ignore them, he told him. But that night, Ron couldn't sleep. He paced their home in Circleville, reading and rereading the letter. By morning, he was desperate. He grabbed his gun and stormed out of the house, telling his kids he was going to confront the writer. Minutes later, his truck smashed into a tree. The gun he took with him had been fired once, but no bullet was found at the scene. His blood alcohol level was high, but those who knew him said Ron never drank. His wife, Mary, immediately became a suspect. Could she have orchestrated her husband's death? The police thought so. They pulled her into an interrogation room, cut off her medication, and kept her awake for days. When she finally broke down, she confessed to killing Ron, but then suddenly changed her story. As the case went to trial, it became clear there were more players involved. Those closest to the investigation believed Mary was innocent, but they needed proof. As they dug deeper, they unearthed a tangled web of deceit, affairs, and resentments. In the end, the case was declared a hung jury, and Mary, free but vilified, would spend the rest of her life trying to clear her name. But amidst this chaos, the letters didn't stop. In fact, they multiplied. Dozens of residents received them, and the tone became darker, more threatening. More people started to fear for their lives. For nearly 10 years, these haunting messages dominated headlines, tainting the lives of everyone in Circleville. But then, out of nowhere, the investigation got a break. In April 1984, Mary was driving her bus route when she noticed a strange sign on the side of the road. It warned drivers about children playing ahead and signed off, Paul Freshour's kid. Confused, Mary realized it wasn't official. Concerned, she stopped to remove it. But as she turned the sign over, she noticed a second one. This one was different. It read, "Watch your children when crossing streets. Mary Gillespie's a killer." Shocked, Mary peeled away the adhesive. Behind it was a metal plate with a hole drilled through the center. And sticking out of the hole was a small part from a .32 caliber pistol. The same caliber as the weapon that killed Ron Gillespie. She quickly reported it to the police. Investigators examined the sign and the gun part. They confirmed it was from a real firearm. Then came another twist. Forensics linked the gun to a series of other crimes, robberies, assaults, even a murder from 1981. And one of the suspects in those crimes was Paul Freshour, Mary's former brother-in-law. The police paid him a visit, but he swore he was innocent. Still, they arrested him. The evidence against him seemed solid. During the investigation, they found more letters, some addressed to Paul himself. The handwriting was identical to the others. In court, prosecutors painted a grim picture. They argued that Paul had a motive. His wife Doris had been romantically linked to Ron, plus he was facing financial troubles. The Attorney General conceded that the only direct link between Paul and the gun was that small piece of metal, but emphasized that circumstantial evidence was just as powerful. In the end, the jury agreed. Paul was convicted of attempted murder and tampering with evidence. Sentenced to 10 years in prison, he was ordered to pay Mary $10,000 in restitution. But Paul insisted on his innocence until his release in 1994. Over the next 2 decades, he fought to clear his name, even writing a tell-all book titled The Real Story Behind the Circleville Letters, but his efforts proved futile. By then, the public had long accepted him as the guilty party. But here's where things get even stranger. As Paul sat behind bars, the letters continued. The same handwriting, the same postmark. Even Paul himself received one. Devastated, he wrote to the governor, begging for a new trial. But authorities were baffled. How could Paul be behind the letters from prison? They put him in solitary, denied access to pens, paper, visitors, anything he could use to write, and still, the letters came. Months turned to years, yet the mysterious correspondence persisted. Something was terribly wrong. All signs pointed to Paul, but how could he be innocent yet implicated by such strong evidence? Had he somehow managed to convince someone to carry out these attacks on his behalf? Or was there another culprit lurking in the shadows? Finally, in 1995, after 10 years in prison, Paul was released. He returned to Circleville, tried to rebuild his life. But it was almost impossible. Everyone saw him as the guilty party. Nearly 20 years had passed since his arrest. Many residents had moved away, their mail forwarded. Others had even changed their phone numbers, but enough remained. And the arrival of each letter shook them to the core. They locked their doors, peering cautiously over their shoulders. Rumors swirled, fears grew. People wondered who else had Paul implicated. Would they be next? It felt like living in a horror movie, except this was real. And after 20 years, nobody had an answer. Today, the town is a shadow of its former self. The population has dwindled, leaving behind a handful of aging residents. Some still cling to the belief that Paul orchestrated it all from prison, but others argue he was merely a pawn in a much larger game. Perhaps it was a collective madness, a community driven to paranoia by an unknown force. Or maybe it was a master manipulator pulling strings from the sidelines. But here's the unsettling truth. We may never know. The identity of the Circleville letter writer remains a mystery, a ghost that haunts the town to this day. Their motive unclear, their identity unknown. All we have are questions. Who is behind it all? Why did they do it? And how did they manage to evade justice for so long? If you lived in Circleville during that time, would you have stayed? Or would you have left, haunted by the fear of those ominous letters? Share your thoughts in the comments. Together, we can try to piece together this chilling puzzle. But remember, behind every mystery is a story waiting to be told.